Hey guys, so bit of a different video, not a vlog for once, even though I'll probably be uploading one soon after this for today's antics, but I wanted to do a bit of a get unready with me. Obviously you can see I've got a full face of makeup on. I've had this on since about 10 AM and I wanted to take it all off and have a little chat. And what's funny is I've actually had something on my mind that I've been like, oh, would this make an interesting video? Does anyone else's brain work like this? And the answer is probably no, but I just thought it'd be interesting to get you guys' like opinion and views on it, because it's more of a concept. I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory because there's no real factual information behind it, but it's just more of me and my nonsense brain and the weird things I think about at like 3 AM, and they're probably thoughts that most would label as high thoughts. Most would probably label as like, Lauren, you're half asleep, go to bed, like you need some shut eye because your brain's doing overtime. But I was voice noting my friend about it and she was saying like quite literally like, you sound like a psychopath, but it makes sense. So I thought, well, why not make it into a video and kind of talk about this crazy, weird thought process that I've been having over the last couple of weeks, and take my makeup off while I do it. And I'll show you guys what I use to take off my makeup while also talking about this crazy, weird thought that I've been having in my head. So if you guys think I'm crazy after this, you're not the only one. My friend thought I was a psychopath when I was voice noting her, and anyone I've even mentioned this to has also thought I'm a psychopath. But it's a fun idea, it's a bit different. I've not seen anyone talk about this sort of way of thinking about things, so I thought I'd make it into a video and do something a little bit different. I don't usually just sit in one place and do something. I find it very difficult to just talk at a camera for a long period of time, but with this, my brain has so much to go through that I thought I could actually do this, and I'm busy doing something while I do it. So if I fumble my words or if I mess up, it is just because I'm trying to do this all in one take, and because I use my iPhone as my camera, it's just me pausing it and then editing it later to literally just take the ending of me going boop and the start of me going hi guys, so starting the video. So yeah, I'm going to try and film it all in one take, but if I make a mistake I'll try and edit it out, or I'll just post words saying that I've made a mistake here or I fumbled my words like I normally take the mick out of myself with my edits. But yeah, I'm gonna get started. So I've put my hair back and I'm just gonna start by taking my makeup off while I talk about this. So I've been kind of contemplating like the last couple of years, and I feel like COVID has become a thing that's become quite taboo to talk about, I guess. It's become something that people almost censor out of their videos. They try not to talk about it too much because it gets labelled as sending like false information, stuff like that. But we're not going to be talking about actual COVID. We're just going to be talking about like the concept of like COVID happening and these crazy historical events that so many of us have been living through these last couple of months, years, since 2019 basically. By the way, for you wondering, I'm using the Wake Things Up Matcha and Mint cleanser. I usually use this as my morning cleanser because it wakes me up, but I'm using it at night because I am trying to wake myself up to go to the gym, and I have just done a full shift, so I'm trying to use it to my advantage. So obviously we've been all living through these like crazy historical events, and I saw a TikTok of this really like intellectual guy the other day basically talking about how like is everything going on almost like not actually a figment of reality. Obviously the whole concept that we're all living in a simulation, all this thing, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe that. I do think that we are sentient beings and everyone is aware of what they're doing. Everyone has their own experiences. The people that we see around us aren't just robots or figments of our own imagination. Everyone has their own lives that they're living. Everyone has their own background and upbringing. So I don't believe in that sort of concept, but the whole idea of us as human beings, like with this virus and coping with things and how we've all handled the situation very differently, has been the thing that has kind of like shocked me and the thing that's really got me thinking recently. And I think it comes down to, I've seen some people come out of lockdown and they feel almost a sense of like refreshed. They feel refreshed after, for them it was almost like an elongated going to be an edit up there of me taking the mick out of how I said that, but an elongated time off work, whereas there's people whose lives have been turned completely upside down from losing all of their like family, losing close friends, even losing people that they knew to this virus that just seemed to come out of nowhere. And I know for me, especially at my old job, it was a case that my family had like a group chat of us just chatting and checking in with each other, because we're all kind of dotted around the UK and across the globe and stuff, so we all try and keep in touch over WhatsApp. But it was literally just a case of, I think it might have been my mum sending like news article or something in about where it first started, and oh, have you guys seen about this, like this is so crazy, like I can't remember this. But it didn't seem as catastrophic as it became. Like I feel like when it first started, everyone was so like almost nonchalant about it, like, oh, it's just a thing happening in another country. We hear about all these crazy things that happen in America, that happen in all these other continents, like, oh yeah, like this has happened, that's been happening, and you kind of disassociate, another edit right there, disassociate yourself with what's happening when it's not in your vicinity, like when you're not having to cope with it. So I feel like for especially people in the UK who you have so much fake media and so many fake news outlets that are spreading like false information, you almost feel disattached to it. You feel like, oh, that's not going to come over here, this isn't going to happen. Like, no, it's the news. Like, it's the news just talking about something, oh my gosh, that's horrific, blah blah blah. Like, you don't see it as becoming a part of your daily life. And in actuality, within weeks, maybe even like a month of all of it coming out on the news of starting in the other countries, then suddenly we're going into lockdown, and suddenly all of these like outlets are sharing like, oh my god, like it's killing thousands of people, we're seeing the death toll rise on a daily basis, we're having these scales of how severe it is in certain areas, and we're having these like constant news reports of like negative, horrific like loss of life, like the NHS being completely stretched to its limits, people not being able to leave their house for more than an hour at a time, like this lockdown that became people being completely trapped in their homes with whoever they lived with and the people around them, because they were scared to go out and catch this deadly virus. So with that being said, again, I said this isn't a whole thing just about COVID, but I'm just setting the sort of tone of what I'm alluding to. But this whole thing happening of like, for some people, COVID was like just the end of their lives. Like everything changed after that. They feel like nothing was ever the same. It's, for other people, it was almost like being in a movie. You feel like you've had this year of your life that you could have watched in some sort of horror, some sort of outbreak, parasite horror movie of, oh my god, there's this virus and it's killing hundreds of people, and you're having to stay away from, you can't even hug your family, you can't go near your family. There's like people who lived and used to talk to their next door neighbours on a daily basis who are now being trapped in their homes and not being able to even open a window because they're so scared that this virus that is spread through the air and through people's breath is being caught so easily. And the vulnerable people, like your elderly, people with like underlying health problems, are all becoming so unwell and passing away and losing their lives to this virus. So there's those people who are dealing with this, and then there's, on the other hand, there's people who had no connection with anyone who lost their lives, no sort of like bad outcome of COVID other than the fact of, oh, I was a bit financially stretched, oh, like I was off work for a year and a bit, like it's got me out of a routine. So this whole crazy thing that we're all living completely different lives and we're all experiencing things so drastically different to one another. And what I was actually like getting down to was this whole idea that as like a human species, our lives are so like scarily different. And it almost seems like a negative thought, but I don't think it is. How like with how many people lost their lives during COVID, it became almost like, I don't want to say expected, because I feel like expected is like every single loss of life was completely and utterly tragic and painful and horrible for the people that were experiencing it. But it became like every day it became numbers, rather than it being like, so for example, when a A-list celebrity dies and the media goes absolutely crazy about it, like, oh my god, like this one celebrity has lost their life, this one celebrity has died in this way and that way. It became that these people didn't have a name to them. It became a statistic, and it became a number, and we were almost treated like machines or like spare parts rather than individuals. And I know like there's no way that they could have like listed every single person that was dying on this daily basis, because obviously it got to a point where in some of the months it was hundreds of people, sometimes it was like tens of people. But rather than us being aware of like all these individuals, how they would treat it with a celebrity, or if there's a tragic loss of life from a murder or a virus that was undetected and it was like completely different, it was just numbers, and people became numbers through lockdown. And it's almost created this divide between how we would treat things before lockdown, of something like a loss of life being so tragic and being a complete tragedy, to how almost everyone feels now after lockdown, of when someone dies, it's just another person that's passed away. It's like created this numbness between the reality of a lost life being something so tragic, especially when it's at a young age and way before their time, to being just another event, just another thing that's happened, like just another like something in history that we're going to have to just deal with and process. And I suppose in some way that can be positive, maybe, because maybe it means that you are able to process that a bit easier, because you don't feel as alone, because there are so many people in the world that had to deal with this same issue. However, you almost feel more alone because it doesn't feel as personal. You don't feel like you can sit and think, oh, I've just lost my mum, my nan, my granddad. You think of it as, oh, they've passed away from COVID, this is another person whose life has been lost. It's less personal. And when you think of, it sounds almost like a selfish way of thinking, but when you think that, say in one day, your family member or your loved one is one of those people who has passed away and who is part of that statistic of 120 people that have died in this day, rather than thinking, oh my god, like I am mourning for myself, I'm mourning for my family, it's very like about you trying to heal and deal with this loss. You almost feel part of a crowd, and you feel like you're not allowed to experience that grief, and you're allowed to take on that grief. And it's a scary feeling, and especially with the mental health services being so stretched at the moment, like there's so many people that are crying out for help, trying to get the help they need with everything that's going on. And with all this loss and all this grief, people are just being like left to deal with it by themselves. And I guess you have been hardened to it through lockdown because so many people are dealing with it, but that doesn't change one individual having to deal with this on a daily basis. This doesn't change one person like contemplating like ending their life or contemplating like hurting themselves. Like it doesn't change that. That is one person dealing with these severe like mental health issues, whether they were occurring before lockdown or if it was after lockdown. That person is still suffering. And I feel like, as I said, with the statistical side of it, you become a statistic, and people who are waiting for mental health services, waiting for counselling, waiting for grievous counselling, waiting for even just for a diagnosis for their mental health so that they can cope with it on a daily basis, because there's so many forums out there nowadays on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and even like Tumblr. I know Tumblr was like the source of a lot of like bad sort of almost, I can't remember the word for it, but almost making it seem beautiful to be depressed and anxious. And I'm not saying that those people are ugly or anything at all, of course not, but it almost gratified people who were feeling like that and wanted to end their life, and made it seem like a beautiful thing, when actually it should be a case that when people are feeling like that and they're feeling down and upset and they're not coping with things, that help should be readily available. And obviously I didn't go to school to study psychology. I didn't go to school to be a nurse or to be able to be a counsellor, and a lot of people won't, because it's a heavy, difficult job. But the people who are in those roles and things like that, they're so stretched with the amount of clients and people that they're having to see on a daily basis. I can't even imagine how it feels to have 100 people in your queue of people. Like, as soon as you sign off one person because you feel like you've helped them to be able to cope and deal with things in their daily life, to have 100 more people waiting. And again, those 100 people become a statistic, because they become just a group of people who need help. And it's almost like you're not seen as an individual who's struggling, you're seen as one of 100 people who's struggling. And it makes you feel so like insignificant, because you want to get help. And whenever they say, whenever you reach a dark place, whenever you're struggling, whenever you're having a hard time with like your mental health, the first thing they say is reach for your phone, call someone, like get hold of like a helpline, do something to like make yourself feel better. And it's almost like you do everything you can to be able to reach those people that are meant to be supporting you and helping you. And with how stretched things are, you just become another person that's waiting in the queue on the phone. You become another person whose name is on a list of, oh, when you've got the opportunity, we need to get in contact with this person. And it almost makes you feel like a spare part. Like I mentioned before, you feel like a spare part sometimes. And the way I've been thinking about it is, in this day and age, the numbness has almost made people seem like robots. And I'm not starting some whole conspiracy theory about lizard presidents and all that rubbish. Just the whole fact of human beings nowadays, with this whole statistical view of things, where everything is just a number, everything's just you in a crowd, you almost feel like a robot. You feel like you're being treated like okay, so imagine it like this. The way I try and like create this image in my brain to be able to process like how I'm thinking about this rubbish is, if you're a car, like, I know it's a weird thought, but like, say if you're a car and you need an oil change, imagine that as like your mental health. The longer you leave this car without having an oil change, the worse the car's going to get. The car's going to start malfunctioning. Other things in the car are going to start breaking down. In a human being, that can be the form of when you're starting to have those emotions and you're starting to struggle, everything else around you breaks down. You're going to break down relationships, like connections with family and people who care about you. You break things down because you push people away. You're not able to cope with it. And people don't understand. Like, I feel like people do understand, but not to the extent that they should, that mental health, it causes so much physical health. And it's so like taboo to say like, oh, like, I can't go into work today because I'm having a bad mental health day. However, if you say, I've been throwing up all night, I'm unwell, that's fine. But if you were to say, I'm having a bad mental health day, I'm not coping today, I'm not going to be able to come into work, that almost seems taboo. That almost seems like you can't do that. You feel shunned by that, because it's like, well, why aren't you able to just get up? There's nothing wrong with you. Your legs aren't broken. Your arms aren't broken. You can still walk and talk and breathe. So what's making it so special that you have to have this time? And you don't realise that, like, if a car is breaking down, humans will start to break down. If you're having these mental health problems, you will start to shut down. And through lockdown, so many people were experiencing this. And then as soon as everything reopened, it was like you were expected to just be thrown out and be able to get on with it. if you leave a car in a shed to rust for a year, that car's not going to be able to just drive off onto the road and carry on like everything's normal. It's going to need time to be fixed, to be worked on. And all these people that are trying to get that help and sort their rust out, like, you know, like try and like fix themselves and do better for themselves to be able to deal with what we've all just gone through. We've literally lived through something that could be in a history book. Like, in 20 years' time, there could be kids writing a history exam about Spanish flu versus coronavirus. Like, you don't know. So for it to become so like normal for people to have such severe struggles and to not be able to get the help is like, it baffles me. Like, it completely baffles me. And I feel like it took me 5 years to be able to get to this point. But just the way I was explaining it to my friend was just about the whole like robot sort of metaphor of, you feel like a machine that just needs to keep running, keep churning out results, keep churning out whatever job you're doing. Like, whether you're a makeup artist, whether you're working in a gym as a gym instructor, you're expected to just churn out like information, results, and be able to do this to be able to be paid, to live, to survive. And no one's taking the time to check on them. Like, no one's given the time to make sure these machines are running properly, because as human beings, we have to feed ourselves to survive. We have to have a roof over our heads to be able to sleep and live, basically. And from lockdown, it's almost like a sense of numbness has happened, that you aren't checked on. People are just expected to carry on like things are normal. And yeah, I know they were saying that like NHS staff have been so horrifically stretched. Like, I cannot even bear to imagine what the NHS staff were put through lockdown, and with like the lack of pay increases and the hours they were made to work. Like, these people deserve like Medal of Honours for what they did. And still, after all that, there's still no regard to the mental health side of it from like government and politics. Like, people will say like, yeah, we're going to put more money towards mental health, but surely that would have been the first thing you do. When we had something happen at our school that was so tragic, the first thing they did was counsellors for every student. Like every single student had to see a counsellor. Every single student had to check in with their teacher and see how everyone was going. So when something of this like calamity happens, surely you would think like check-ins with people. And yeah, God, what, there's hundreds of thousands of people in the UK, hundreds of thousands of people, like across the world there's billions of people. You can't expect every single person to get a phone call asking, oh, how you doing? Good, awesome, like just wanted to check up on you, speak to you tomorrow. There's no way that's going to be a thing. But for the people who are reaching out for that call, for reaching out for that help, it's just crazy to me how you just become another number on their waiting list. It baffles me, it blows my mind that you are just another like a piece of paper. You're almost just like, I think I've said it like 50 times now, but you just become like one out of 100,000 people that needs help. And it just makes you feel like so insignificant, incorrect word right there. You just become so insignificant to, do I deserve this help? Do I deserve to be able to reach out for these people? Because you almost compare yourself to those other people. I feel like when it's before lockdown, you were kind of able to call, try and get a diagnosis, speak to a therapist, speak to a psychiatrist. Yeah, it was still just as difficult to get someone, well, not just as difficult, it was still difficult to do that. But after lockdown, with so many more people, I feel like they were left to isolate and almost brew in their own emotions, that rather than it being like, okay, we're going to try and talk to someone in this time, they're not even telling you you're on a waiting list. They're not even telling you someone's going to get back to you. It's just a case of, we've got no space right now. There's nothing we can do right now. There's not, like, and you just feel, if someone tells you you're on a waiting list, if someone tells you there's something happening, you at least have something to look forward to. You have something to, okay, they know I'm here, they're going to get me some help. Then you feel like gratitude. You think, oh my God, okay, thank God someone's going to talk to me soon. I'm going to get some help. And you almost have that sort of light at the end of the tunnel to be able to reach for. But when someone just says, we're busy, we don't have the space, or don't answer your calls, the phone rings out, you just feel like, okay, I'm just another person that's trying to call your number now. I'm just another number on your waiting list. I've said waiting list like 50 times, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and I feel like it's a really deep thought, and it is a little bit depressing. And I don't like doing depressing, but I was thinking about it a lot today, and especially seeing like families come out and talking to people who were really excited to like buy themselves nice things and say like, oh my gosh, like I needed to get a new kit for this, I needed to get a new thing for that. It was crazy to me how like there was like excitement, but then there was also people who were like withdrawn to the fact of talking about COVID, like didn't even want to mention it. And then other people who were just so nonchalant about it and, oh yeah, like it happened, but you know, like we're over it, we're through it now. But yeah. It's such a weird thought process, and it took me so long to get that. Like I think this video is literally gonna be like half an hour long, but I just want to know like what you guys think. I know, God, what, I'm getting like 20 views on all of my vlogs at the moment, but I just want to know what you guys think. Most of it is just me waffling complete and utter nonsense, and I'm probably going to watch this back and be like, did you make a point in the end? Did you know what you were actually alluding to? And I did. I've got the idea in my head. It just takes me a little bit longer to get there, and I think I got there in the end trying to say what I wanted to say. But yeah, hopefully this video doesn't get taken down for misinformation, because I mentioned the big bad C word, COVID. I didn't swear. But I barely did anything to take my makeup off. I said I was going to show you guys products, and I literally used my moisturiser and some wipes from Superdrug. So, oh, and I also used my Total Softy moisturiser. So that's what I used for my makeup removal. Get unready with me. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts, if you know me personally, drop me a message and let me chat more nonsense to you, or drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think. There's not really much else to think about it. I don't even know what opinion I'd expect to hear, but I guess just what you guys thought about the whole pandemic as a whole, and how your kind of reaction to it was. Like, did you think it was just like time off, or did you find it a lot more difficult like a lot of us did? I'd like to know. It would be nice to have that conversation with people, especially people who I haven't spoken to in a long time, because I feel like there's some people who started watching my videos who I haven't spoken to in so long, and if this video somehow reaches you and you somehow manage to get to the end of this complete load of nonsense and want to talk to me and not think I'm an absolute psychopath, let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you coming along for the journey of wherever the hell that story was going. And I think I might do more videos like this, because I feel like when I'm at home by myself and I'm waiting for Connor to finish work, it's nice to be able to get those sort of thoughts off my chest without being too depressing. Oh God, such a happy little video. But well, I'll see you guys in my next vlog or my next video. Thank you for watching.